as it stands. Every Nigerian requires energy to survive. The ideal scenario is to have every household use liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, for their daily domestic usage and move away from kerosene and the traditional firewood that is injurious to man's health and considered a danger in homes.
But today, we have seen that we can actually monetize our gas. And unfortunately, because we did not focus on gas, even in the country today, our gas utilization is very low. You, I'm sure, will agree with me, for example, that even the usage of household gas in Nigeria is quite low. It is very restricted to a certain class of people. In the rural areas, nobody is using gas. So we now said, look, we must try to encourage the utilization of gas so that we create the market in the country and then begin to produce at least part of the 206 trillion cubic feet of gas.
There are laws, regulation to ensure business continuity. So manage the acreages, lease it out, get rentals out of it, produce it, get royalties out of it, in lieu of generating taxes, employment, as well as ability for investors to get return on their investment. So technically, DPR is managing oil and gas resource for the benefit of Nigerians.
All these investments have happened in the last 3 years, and essentially is signal from government, because don't forget, before this government, the support for the industry was on kerosene with a subsidy, which was totally inefficient. But the real challenge for us is actually firewood, because in the mix for cooking, firewood is 60%, kerosene 30%, LPG 5%, charcoal 5%. So government's ambition is to change that 5% to 90% within 10 years. And that's the challenge which we're facing, and we know that the industry, by partnering with the industry, then we're able to achieve that.
The government should hands off from pricing any product, whether it was petroleum product, whether it was gas, whether it was electricity. So government policy should be targeted at market-driven prices. However, government has to be emphatic on regulation to make sure that the industry is sane, even in pricing. So the focus should move away from controlling price into industry regulation that ensures that even market-driven prices and practices are fair and world-class. That's what government should do. Once that happens, the private sector funding will come in. Government does not need to spend a kobo.
Not paying attention to our gas resources, we did not enable gas-based industries. Gas-based industries have the potential to create multiplier employment opportunities. And then here's the thing, gas is an enabler of different sectors. So for instance, in the agricultural sector, a lot of the agriculture in Nigeria is still largely subsistence farming. Whereas leveraging on gas, we could have created, fertilizer has been an issue for a long time. You actually use gas to generate fertilizers. And why don't we have multiple fertilizer companies where we're even exporting to other countries? And that's enabling our agri sector. Using gas, we could have also provided power that allows the agri sector to not just do processing for today, but processing for storage and for export. And every time you hear the sounds of processing, of industry, of capacity building, you're also hearing employment, which means all these youths could have been gainfully employed in one form or the other.
In terms of trying to claw back a lot of what we lose in this country as a way of capital flight, I'll give you a context. Prior to the establishment of the Act, the industry usually, in those days when I was in Shell, the industry as a whole usually spent almost about $21 billion year on year. And we saw that only less than 5% of that remained in country. Practically everything that is done in the industry was done outside the shores of Nigeria. And it's only less than 3%, 5% that we claw back in terms of expenditure. But today I'm happy to tell you that we've been able to raise the ante, and we've increased local participation to about 35% from less than 5%. So today we've clawed back about $7 billion out of the $21 billion. And our aspiration is that by the year 2027, we should be able to claw back about 70% of that annual expenditure in the industry.
The ongoing National Gas Expansion Program will help achieve the vision for the deepening of the sector and ensure the realization of the gas penetration policy, where every home in the country uses gas and each of the 774 local governments in the country has at least one LPG and one compressed natural gas CNG facility or outlet.
With bridging the gaps with the pipeline systems on the natural gas side of things, I would say investment in this could range from virtual pipeline systems, which is quite well known in the world, with specialized trucks moving compressed natural gas or liquefied natural gas from point A to B. You would also have the opportunity to invest in mother stations and secondary stations, which are called daughter stations. And the daughter stations just help with the distribution of compressed natural gas. We also have the opportunity now for people to invest in LNG hubs, LNG hubs where you could buy your liquefied natural gas from a wholesaler and regasify into CNG. So there is a broad mix of opportunities for investment. It really depends on the investment appetite of players within Nigeria.
The next driver is to look at our natural gas development, okay? Because we see gas as, people call it the fuel of the future, but for us it's a fuel of now, because we have all the resources to become a fully integrated energy company. Natural gas, given impetus by all the successes recorded by this present government and indeed the present Ministry of Petroleum and the leadership of NNPC, has given impetus for Nigeria to try and position itself in the map of the global energy transition.
There's a huge correlation between electricity generation and gas utilization, right? And as I earlier mentioned, 80% of the gas in the country today is gas used for power generation, is gas to power. And to that extent, what today, you know, I mean, so far we've operated about 50 megawatts of installed capacity across the country. For us as a group, we're making tremendous progress and tremendous impact in that, you know, that's what, about 46% in emission levels. And you can extrapolate from that data point how much, you know, in terms of tons of carbon emission that 50 megawatts of power would have translated into. That's on the one side. On the other side, it's gas that's now being utilized. Further making a case for, you know, call it absolute stemming of gas flaring, right? Prior to now, the concern has been around domestic use of gas, right? And if there's enough of a market. But with what we're doing and others like us, you know, we're further driving the possibility, or should I say driving gas utilization across the country by virtue of the different power plants that we have and that we're able to support using the gas infrastructure that we've developed so far.
We barely do 5 gigawatts. This is a country of 200 plus million people. The United Nations actually says that you should have at least 1 gigawatt for every 1 million people, which means that at best we should have 200, and we're doing 4.55. Imagine if we had, over the years, channeled our gas into gas-to-power projects, where the average person, the young man on the street can, even if he's a barber, he knows he can run a salon 24 hours if he needs to. Now we don't have lights, so you can only work so many hours of the day. And then security has become such an issue that people are even closing earlier just to make sure they can get home safely to their families. In any industry you go into, you think about gas. And you think about how we could have enabled that. The transportation sector, for instance, imagine if we had leveraged on our gas resources to push the auto gas decades ago.
A testament to this fact is the launching of the National Gas Transportation Network Code to ensure that the market transits into a network code regime within 6 months of the launch, as stipulated by the federal government.
I dare say the current Honorable Minister of State Petroleum has shown tremendous leadership when it comes to gas the gas agenda, the gas vision. But if you look at this current minister's vision, he's saying, look, gas should not be a transition. Gas should be the destination. And I totally agree with that. And I think it's actually helped even my own vision as an independent businessman.
Gas is actually now the fuel of choice internationally. And then when you look at what's going on domestically, you're seeing a lot of push towards LPG use. You're seeing a lot of push towards gas as a transport fuel. You're also seeing that lenders generally are signaling a preference for gas projects, even beyond oil projects. So follow the money, follow the activity. It's telling you a story that gas is the way to go.
The code will facilitate open access and transparency in the gas transportation systems across the country and stimulate investments in the gas transportation segment.
What we're doing is to expand the infrastructure that we have today by delivering some of the trunk lines that have been historical, but now we're really on course delivering the AKK pipeline, the OB3 river crossing, a number of connections that we have to do to make sure that the gas is delivered to the market. Our line of sight is to see that within the next 2 years, and hopefully, and we're very, very optimistic, that those infrastructure will be delivered, and of course now gas will be waiting for customers and not the other way around today that we have.
Whatever you say, you just see that we could have changed the landscape of this economy significantly by leveraging on our gas resources. Of course, there is also the export conversation, that we would have built such value-added industries and products and services, I dare say, that will be exporting not just regionally but internationally. When you look across the world, if you look at countries like the US, look at the UK, look at Indonesia, look at Qatar, look at Russia, you see nations that literally understood the potentials of gas, and they've used it to transform their economies, and they're creating capacity internally as well as exporting their capacity. That's where Nigeria would have been if we had paid that kind of attention.
We have taken positive steps towards that direction. What you need is a trunk line that traverses the country. We currently have the line, the ELPS, what we call the Escravo-Lagos pipeline network, which is a very huge trunk line, and then you need another leg of it that should traverse part of the eastern part of this country, connect it to the AKK pipeline all the way into Kano. As you do this, you have a tripod of pipeline network, which makes it easy for every part of this country to connect into the trunk line. Our focus on this will deliver the OB3 line completely within the next 3 to 4 months. Once that is done and we're able to complete the AKK pipeline, we know that we have a major trunk line available for development in this country.